You sign the offer letter for $100,000. It feels like a massive win. You pop the champagne. You call your parents. You think the 100K salary lifestyle, 2026, means financial freedom. You followed every single rule society gave you. You got the degree. You put in the unpaid overtime. You navigated the corporate politics. But then, your first few paychecks hit, and something doesn't make sense. The new 2026 tax phase-outs immediately start draining your net income. The $870 a week nanny cost doesn't just pinch your budget, it violently erodes your savings account. You check your bank app on a Friday night, and suddenly, you realize a terrifying mathematical truth. You are working 60 hours a week, carrying the stress of an executive, just to mathematically run out of money faster than when you were making $70,000. I am breaking down the math of the 2026 tax code as a researcher. I am not your CPA. Run these numbers with a professional before making tax decisions. Because today, I am going to show you exactly how the system was quietly re-engineered. I'm going to show you how a hidden psychological trap inside your workday forces you to spend money just to survive your own career. And, most importantly, I am going to hand you the exact digital leverage you need to break out of a game you were never meant to win. Let's reverse engineer the trap. The inflation time machine. We need to start by destroying a cultural ghost, the six-figure dream. For decades, society programmed you to believe that crossing $100,000 was the ultimate finish line. In the 1980s and 90s, that number meant the four-bedroom house, the 2 cars in the driveway, fully funded college accounts for the kids, and 2 vacations a year. It was the undeniable marker of the upper middle class. But you are chasing a ghost from a completely different economic era. It's what economists call the Henry trap, high earners, not rich yet. Late last year, a 7-year-old worker named Milan Singh went viral on the Threads app. He didn't complain about avocado toast or coffee habits. He just did a basic, brutal mathematical audit of his paycheck compared to his parents' paycheck. And it shattered the illusion for millions of young professionals overnight. Here is the exact math your parents didn't have to deal with. Based on BLS CPI data, a $100,000 salary in late 2025 has the identical purchasing power of a $54,000 salary in the year 2000. Think about the weight of that number. Think about what $54,000 meant when you were a kid. It was a starting salary. It was an entry-level, junior position. Today, you are carrying the extreme stress, the bloated title, and the 24/7 corporate responsibilities of a six-figure manager. But your actual, real-world purchasing power is that of an entry-level worker from the dot-com bubble. To actually match the lifestyle and the purchasing power, a $100,000 salary provided at the turn of the millennium, you don't need a small raise. You need to earn exactly $187,000 today. And this isn't just a complaint about inflation making groceries expensive. It is a structural, systemic downgrade of the American middle class. The government actually knows this. They just don't say it in their press conferences. Federal housing guidelines peg affordability to local markets. If you live in a premier East Coast metro right now, the definitions have quietly changed. An individual earning $90,720 in New York City is officially classified as low income, at 80% of the area median income. I want that to sink in. You make over $90,000 a year, and the federal government legally qualifies you for subsidized affordable housing units. You are officially low income. This is the baseline you need to accept before we look at your budget. You aren't doing something wrong. You aren't bad at managing your money. You don't have a spending problem. You are simply playing a financial game where the goalposts were moved 25 years ago and no one bothered to tell you. But a $54,000 reality check is just the beginning. That's just the macro economy. Because starting right now, in 2026, the legislative trap officially snaps shut. The 2026 legislative penalties, OBBBA. Let's perform a brutal audit of your paycheck under the new reality of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the OBBBA. When the 2025 and 2026 tax codes were passed, Politicians went on television and sold it as a massive relief package for the working class. What they didn't advertise, what they buried in the fine print of the legislation, were the aggressive deduction phase-outs. These phase-outs were precision engineered to target one very specific demographic, the $100,000 to $150,000 earner. Let's look at your car. You bought a reliable vehicle to commute to that six-figure job. The OBBBA introduced a highly publicized $10,000 auto loan interest deduction to help working families afford the exploding cost of vehicles. Sounds like a massive win, right? Here's the math your dealership hides from you. Under the 2026 OBBBA tax code, that $10,000 auto loan interest deduction aggressively phases out, starting at a $100,000 Maggie for a single filer. Imagine you are a single professional making $98,000 a year. You are barely scraping by, but you get to claim that deduction. Then, performance review season hits. You worked weekends. You sacrificed your physical health. You skipped family events. And you finally earn a $5,000 raise. You did it. You crossed the six-figure mark. You are now making $103,000. But because of that raise, because you crossed that invisible line, the IRS violently phases out your auto deduction. You worked 50 extra hours a month. You earned a $5,000 raise on paper, but the system took away your $10,000 deduction in reality. Your hard-earned promotion just bankrupted your monthly cash flow. This is not an accident. It is a wealth transfer disguised as a career milestone. And if you are an older worker, the math is even more cruel. Let's say you are trying to catch up on your retirement. The new $6,000 senior deduction was designed to help you, but that phases out, starting at just $75,000 for singles and $150,000 for married couples. If an older worker takes a promotion to hit six figures so they can finally fund their 401k, they lose the $6K deduction entirely. Their raise is erased. But we are only halfway through the equation, because the government also introduced a new $12,500 tax deduction for overtime pay. The narrative was simple. We are untaxing hard work. Except there is a massive, structural catch. The new $12,500 overtime deduction requires FLSA hourly status, meaning most salaried six-figure workers legally cannot claim a single dollar of it. You are an exempt employee. You work 50, maybe 60 hours a week. You answer emails at 9 p.m. You fix PowerPoint decks on a Sunday morning. You take client calls on your commute. That is shadow work. It is uncompensated, invisible labor. You do not get overtime pay for it, and under the 2026 tax code, you are legally locked out of the tax deduction for it. Your hourly rate mathematically collapses every time you open your laptop after dinner. And if you try to fight back, if you hire an accountant and try to itemize your deductions to write off your heavy state taxes or your crushing mortgage interest, the 2026 code hits you with the 2/37 rule. As you climb past $100K, your itemized deductions are capped to a tax benefit of just 35 cents per dollar at the top brackets. You are mathematically penalized twice, once for losing the standard middle-class lifelines at the bottom, and again by having your high-earner deductions artificially throttled at the top. The 100K salary lifestyle 2026 isn't a tax bracket. It is a financial extraction zone. The geographic and housing collapse. For years, the internet financial gurus gave you one simple piece of advice. If you make $100,000 and you feel broke, it's your fault for living in New York or LA. Just move, pack up your life, leave the coast, and buy a house in Texas or Florida. Geographic arbitrage. Let's reverse engineer that advice with today's math. Based on the standard 28/36 underwriting rule and a 6.2% rate, comfortably affording the median U.S. home now requires roughly a $135,000 income. The $100K milestone is mathematically obsolete for standard homeownership anywhere near a major economic hub. But what if you do move? What if you flee to the Sun Belt? The math tracks you down. According to 2026 data from Smart Asset, a single adult living in Austin, Texas, applying the basic 503020 budget rule, now needs to earn $98,550 just to be considered financially stable. If you have a family of 4 in Austin, that number explodes to $229,050. The local cost of living premiums have entirely consumed whatever tax advantage the South used to offer. The housing market door has been slammed shut. Geographic arbitrage is dead. There is no cheap city left to run to. And if you decide to build a family, the math stops being difficult and starts being structurally destructive. According to Care.com's 2026 cost of care report, the average cost of an infant nanny hit $870 a week. That is a 5% year-over-year increase. That consumes roughly 20% of an average family's household income. The government affordability benchmark says childcare shouldn't exceed 7%. We are nearly triple that. For 20% of families, childcare exceeds $30,000 a year. If you are a dual-income household making $200,000, you are entirely losing one partner's post-tax salary just to secure the privilege of going to work. 31% of parents are actively draining their savings accounts just to keep their jobs. Let's look at the raw anatomy of a bleeding wallet. Let's look at a modeled family of 3 living in San Jose, analyzed by LendingTree. They hit the 6-figure dream. They bring in $100,000. They budget perfectly. They don't buy luxury cars. They don't buy designer clothes. They pay for basic housing, basic childcare, healthcare, and groceries before they pay a single credit card bill, before they make a single student loan payment, before a single vacation is booked, or a single dollar is invested for retirement. They operate at a $2,207 monthly deficit. I need to be very clear about what this means. This is not systemic poverty. You are not starving on the street, but it is absolute, terrifying cash flow insolvency. Your money is entirely spoken for by structural, unchangeable overhead before the direct deposit even clears your bank account. This is exactly why reports from Lending Club indicate that 52% of consumers earning between $100,000 and $150,000 are living paycheck to paycheck. Over half of the people who made it are one medical emergency away from financial ruin. But inflation, taxes, and childcare aren't the things stealing the most from you. The most expensive, destructive cost of the $100K trap is your Wednesday afternoon, the workplace paradox, the peak. We operate on a very basic societal assumption: making more money reduces your stress. It makes you happier. But behavioral science just proved that inside the corporate machine, the exact opposite is true. In April 2026, the Wharton School released groundbreaking data from Matthew Killingsworth. He built a platform called Track Your Happiness that pinged thousands of workers in real time to catch their actual, unfiltered moods. The results shattered everything we thought we knew about the 6-figure lifestyle. According to April 2026 data from the Wharton School, higher pay is statistically associated with lower happiness, while actually on the job for anyone making under $200K. They call it the net zero effect. Yes, crossing $100,000 buys you a nicer weekend. It buys you a better dinner on Saturday night. But the prestige of that salary is violently canceled out by extreme corporate stress, endless meetings, longer unpaid hours, and the constant, crushing threat of layoffs. You traded your mental bandwidth for a LinkedIn title. You upgraded your car just so you could sit in traffic longer to go to a place you hate. A 6-figure salary doesn't buy you a nicer boss. It just buys you a more expensive commute to a higher stress cage. This psychological trap is devastating, and it creates a vicious cycle of spending. Take the documented case of Denise, a money mindset mentor featured in the Defender Network earlier this year. She earned an astonishing $185,000 a year. To the outside world, she was winning, but she publicly admitted to having exactly $23 in her savings account. When society looks at Denise, they call her irresponsible. They say she lacks discipline. But the math and the psychology tell a completely different story. When you are trapped in a high-stress, high-income environment, you suffer from deprivation fatigue. You are so exhausted by the shadow work, the commuting, the office politics, the late-night Slack messages that you start spending aggressively on convenience just to survive. You buy a $40 dinner on DoorDash because you are physically too tired to cook at 8 p.m. You pay for a premium gym membership you never use because you want to believe you have control over your health. You book a $4,000 vacation you put on a credit card because you desperately need to decompress so you don't break down. You are paying a massive premium just to mentally survive the job that is supposed to be making you wealthy. It is a wealth transfer disguised as self-care, and it gets even deeper. The Wharton researchers found something called the household fraction rule. If a household makes a combined $150K, the partner earning the smaller fraction of that income is statistically happier and less stressed at work. Think about what that means. Making six figures is only psychologically enjoyable if someone else in your house is making significantly more than you, removing the immense pressure of being the primary breadwinner. If it's all on your shoulders, the pressure is mathematically and psychologically crushing. You are living paycheck to paycheck on 100K, not because you buy too many coffees. You are living paycheck to paycheck because you are paying a massive structural and psychological tax just to participate in the modern economy. The system is mathematically designed to extract your time and cap your wealth, and the ultimate penalty for this cash flow trap just arrived. In July 2026, the government launches Trump Accounts, a massive new program allowing parents to invest $5,000 a year, tax-free, for their children. If a wealthy parent maxes out that $5,000 contribution from birth, their child could have $2.2 million by age 62. It is the greatest generational wealth-building tool in modern history. But the $100K earners? The people trapped by OBBBA phase-outs, drained by $870 a week childcare, and crushed by 6.2% mortgages? They don't have the $400 a month margin to fund it. The generational wealth gap just widened permanently. And if you stay on your current path, you are on the wrong side of it. You cannot budget your way out of a structural crisis. You cannot out-earn a tax trap you don't even know you are inside of. Cutting out your $5 latte will not fix a $2,200 monthly deficit. You have to stop playing defense. You have to build leverage. Stop giving your corporate job 60 hours a week for a salary that mathematically depreciates every single year. You need to reclaim 10 of those hours and build digital assets. Zero capital systems, B2B SaaS affiliate funnels, AI-driven micro-businesses. You need to build income streams that do not require an $870 a week nanny. Income streams that do not trigger OBBBA phase-outs because they operate as separate business entities. Income streams that do not steal your Wednesday afternoons and destroy your mental health. If this breakdown of the 100K salary lifestyle 2026 exposed a trap you have been feeling in your gut but couldn't quite name, send this to the coworker who needs to see the math. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Are you feeling the net zero effect at your job, or does the $100K salary still feel worth it? Let's debate the math down below. Stop letting the system audit your life. It is time for you to audit the system. Stop playing their game and start building your own.